What we have here is, as you can probably see, a seizure of marijuana. This was a little bit unusual in two ways. The quantity of marijuana and the way in which it got into Hernando County are a little bit unusual. This all started Monday night around 10 o'clock. And we ended up getting two individuals that we're looking for, as well as almost 200 pounds of marijuana and the Beech Baron aircraft, twin-engine aircraft that's behind me. And to tell you a little bit about what happened was Monday night at about 10:30, a little bit before 10:30, we had no anticipation of this. We didn't know it was coming, but we got a call from Homeland Security Investigations Department, and they advised that a small aircraft may be entering Hernando County that was acting very suspiciously. It was on their radar, so to speak, and they were asking us to check it out. And shortly thereafter, a Hernando County deputy was dispatched here to the airport. It's directly south of us, probably a quarter of a mile or so, and she was looking around for the suspicious aircraft, and she actually happened to see it at about 10:45, being put into a hangar here at the airport property, and the hangar door was in the process of being closed. Of course, several moments later, she had backup coming, as well as Homeland Security investigators, and they met two individuals, Joshua Overton and an Aaron Andrus, who were exiting the hangar. They were slightly less than cooperative. They wouldn't allow us into the hangar, so we, again, in the middle of the night, we called up or stood up our vice unit, had them come out. They got out here about midnight, along with some assistance from some of the other areas of the sheriff's office. They were able to start doing some investigation and got enough information to get a search warrant. Of course, that search warrant had to be written in the middle of the night from scratch, and it was had to be presented to a judge, and that's exactly what they did. And then early Tuesday morning, by about 6:20, a search warrant was obtained and it was executed. And once we got into the hangar and into the airplane, we found this marijuana, and it's about 197 pounds of marijuana. And there was also a Ford F-150 pickup truck, a 2010, that was also seized in the process. As you can see, the marijuana was placed in 8 separate plastic vacuum sealed bags, and they were actually in turn put into 4 large duffel bags inside the aircraft. It appears from our investigation that Joshua Overton is the owner of the aircraft. There's some trusts and corporations and so forth that are involved, and that he actually rented the hangar here on the airport property sometime within the last month or two. And we have, since that time, issued warrants for both of these individuals. This person is Joshua Overton. He is a white male, and we're actually looking for him because while we were doing our investigation, he left the area. We didn't have reason at that point while we were getting the search warrant to arrest him. So he asked if he could leave, and we didn't have any reason to hold him, so we allowed him to leave. But he is now wanted. He's wanted on trafficking marijuana over 25 pounds, possession of a conveyance, namely the aircraft, I guess, for trafficking, and of course possession of paraphernalia. When he's caught, or if he turns himself in, we prefer if he turned himself in, his bond will be $41,000. And to our knowledge, he doesn't have any other criminal history. And he's actually, our intelligence leads us to believe he's from the St. Pete area. The second individual who was involved that night is Aaron Andrus. He's a white male. His date of birth is 1/26/79. He's from Chico, California. He's also wanted for trafficking over 25 pounds of marijuana, possession of a conveyance for trafficking, and possession of paraphernalia, and his bond is also $41,000. We don't show him having any criminal history either. The location of both of these subjects right now is unknown, and of course anybody who has any information, we'd like them to contact the detective in charge of the case, and his name is Brian Falkingham, and he can be reached at area code 352-754-6830. Or, of course, as usual, if somebody has information of the whereabouts of these wanted people and they'd like to contact Crime Stoppers, they can call a Crime Stopper number directly or online submit their tips. And, of course, they could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $1,000. Now, I think it's important to point out that we're not going to talk a lot about specific methods of how we were alerted and what brought these people to the attention of the federal authorities, namely Homeland Security. But I will tell you that we worked very closely. My people went from 10 o'clock Monday night, literally standing still on this investigation, not even knowing it was coming, to 6:20 the next morning, having a search warrant in hand and executing the search warrant. But they did not do it alone. We had Customs and Border Protection involved. We had the Department of Homeland Security involved, and a Lake County Sheriff's Office was an integral part of this investigation. We worked very closely with them, and they actually have somebody on the task force that was originally investigating this. And the Federal Administration, or Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, their Law Enforcement Assistance Program, and agents from that program from Orlando and Atlanta, Georgia, both have been involved and been assisting us tremendously. This is a great example of a lot of people working together in a very short period of time to combat illegal drug smuggling. The value of this marijuana is, at minimum, even if it's not very good stuff, is at least $1,000 a pound. My agents, my detectives in Vice and Narcotics say this is probably worth more towards the top end because it's very clean, probably closer to $1,700 a pound. And so that makes the street value probably over $300,000, maybe close to $350,000. So we're not talking about a nickel and dime operation. This was a big operation. It took a lot of work, and we're going to see it through to a successful conclusion. Now what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Senator Walton Simpson, have him say a few words, and then I'll be happy to answer a few questions. So, Senator Simpson, thank you again for your time.
All right, and thank you, Sheriff. And all I really wanted to say is how much we appreciate the Hernando Sheriff's Office, Hernando County Sheriff's Office. This is a two in a row. Last month we had a major bust, and now this month we now have marijuana, and the sheriff is saving lots of lives here. There's a lot of sheriffs in our area that are known for being tough on crime, but nothing has come out of this in that I have seen in many months, and we're very proud of the Sheriff's Office. The state is willing always to be a partner with the sheriff anytime. He's done a great job. Our officers are doing obviously a great job in saving lives and protecting our families and children, and we really appreciate the sheriff and his good work here. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. As I said, Senator Simpson's a great friend, a personal friend, and a friend of law enforcement, and he's always quick to help us out with anything. I'll go ahead and I don't know how many questions I'll be able to answer, but I'll do my best because obviously we're still in the fairly early stages of this investigation. Really, we didn't even know we had a violation until early Tuesday morning. So, anybody have any questions?
Sheriff, was this an isolated incident or more on a large-scale scheme?
Yes. It's hard to tell. We think that this particular airplane and this particular these individuals, we don't have any reason to believe that they've come into Brooksville previously. I can't say definitively they have not. We are hoping that this was the first time, and we were able to stop that. But it did come from the United States, the West Coast. It came a long way, and so it was pretty sophisticated, as you can see by the packaging and the type of conveyance they have. So, I think that it's probably not their first time being involved in drug smuggling.
Is this assumed to be gang related?
Gang related? No, I don't think, not that I know of, I don't think there's any overtones. Now, would it eventually get into the hands of gangs? I can say almost unequivocally probably affirmative on that. It would probably end up that way. But these individuals, I don't think we have any indication they're specifically involved in any one gang.
Are smaller rural airports used more by smugglers? Because obviously landing in Tampa with this, someone's going to see it.
Well, that's possible. I don't think drug traffickers really have a set way of doing things, and that's why sometimes it makes them a little difficult. We've seen crazy ways that people smuggle things in wheel wells of commercial aircraft. So it's probably at least their thought that it might be easier to get away with and less likely for detection. But I can also tell you that we do spend a lot of time monitoring the airport, not just for drug smuggling, but for any suspicious activity from terrorism to theft and everything in between. So we do try to have a unit in the area here most of the time.
I'm not sure if you mentioned this prior, but there was some speculation early on that sources we heard that the airplane may be stolen. Was that a fact, or is it actually?
I don't think we found any evidence of that yet. Matter of fact, I think we found to the contrary that it was purchased. Again, we still have a lot of research to do. Airplanes, even regular vehicles, sometimes can be very difficult to trace, and airplanes can be a little bit more difficult with that, but we're working with the FAA and trying to find out. But I think right now it appears as though that it is not stolen.
So have they done this before? I'm sorry, I may have.
Have they done this
Have they
before?
done this before?
I
It
would
was
say-
like
I
your
would say-
drug smugglers.
I would say that there's probably a very good likelihood that this was not the first time that they smuggled drugs. I think it's probably the first time, at least it appears the first time that they landed in Brooksville.
So this is the first plane in Brooksville you guys have busted like this?
In recent memory, I'm sure back in the 70s and 80s it was probably a little more common. I kind of joke to my people, I hear Miami Vice theme song in the background, and it was kind of similar to that. But it hasn't been something that's been real popular of late, but obviously there's still those people out there trying to make money illegally smuggling drugs.
Can you tell us what made the plane suspicious, or is that?
That's Homeland Security alerted it to us, and that's all I'm comfortable with saying right now.
Where was this just in the cabin itself?
Yeah, it was in the passenger compartment, is my understanding, and maybe the baggage compartment, but mainly in the passenger compartment behind the pilot and the co-pilot.
And it came from the West Coast, you said?
Yeah, from the west coast of the United States. So they came a long way.
California?
That area,
Is it
yes.
Chico, California, or?
Yes. That area. At least that's what our intelligence tells us.
And you say the suspects their whereabouts is unknown at this time, or have you had communications with them at all?
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
I'm sorry. Have you had communications with them at all by phone or anything?
No, I don't think we've had any communications with them, but we're looking for them. And we'd obviously prefer if they turned themselves in, because it'd be less likely for anybody to get hurt.
So they just took off, your deputy got your backup?
Well, yeah, we actually talked to them for quite a while, and they asked, obviously we did not at that point have a search warrant or a reason to place them under arrest. It was suspicious at best, but it was not enough to make an arrest, and we didn't want to do anything to interfere with the ultimate investigation. But we did get them ID'd. We have, obviously have photographs of them, and we're relatively confident we're going to track them down eventually. So if they turn themselves in, it'll make it a lot easier on everybody.
Is this thought to be related to the heroin?
I don't think there's any indication it's related at all. No.
Now that this is off the streets?
What, it's off the street? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you're the sheriff of the
Right.
community.
Right.
Now that this is off the streets, your words?
Well, I think, as Senator Simpson so eloquently put, drugs, at the very least, zap the initiative out of the community, inhibit a community's ability to have economic recovery or economic improvement, because people typically, when they take drugs, they're not real eager to work, and oftentimes they steal from other people. So I think at the very minimum it inhibits our economic recovery, but at the maximum, lives are lost. Whether it's from the drug itself, like heroin, or whether it's from the violence that often comes when you're talking about an illegal operation that's $300,000 or $400,000, people have died for a lot less. And I guarantee you, there are people in the community that would have killed these individuals and anybody else who got in their way to get a hold of this. There is no doubt in my mind. We see it every day for things a whole lot less than a couple 100 pounds of marijuana. So,
Are these suspects considered a flight risk for out of the country?
I don't have any indication of that, but that's obviously always a possibility. We know at least one of them can pilot an airplane, so that's a concern, obviously. But I will tell you that we work closely with the U.S. Marshal Service. My warrants detectives are some of the best I've ever worked with, and I have a selective enforcement unit that is very good at tracking people down too. And it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. We'll get them.
And you mentioned that the plane was registered to one of the suspects, but under some states and corporations.
Yeah.
Are they looking into the corporations
Oh,
to
absolutely.
see if they're affiliated?
Absolutely. Well, we're looking into them to try to determine actual ownership and so forth, but that's going to be part of the seizure process and all that. That's what we've covered so far. So we're going through that process as we speak.
Senator, your thoughts on how these two guys brought it into an area where your constituents live, please?
Yeah, so anytime we can make any bust, I think it's a big deal. We're very proud of the sheriff's office in handling the way they've handled the last few months. We've had 2 major busts, and you know, there's again the reputation of the Hernando Sheriff's Office speaks for itself. I'm proud that this is not on the streets. People are losing their lives, or worse, in some cases being murdered for this material. And so I think anything we can do as the state, Senate and House legislature, we're prepared to work with the Sheriff's Office any way we can to make sure we keep this off our streets.
Thank you all very much for coming. I would ask you, I think you were already told this, but I would ask you that the evidence has not been processed yet for any type of latent forensic evidence. So you're welcome to take all the pictures you want, but if you get a little bit too close, these gentlemen will get very upset, so please don't do that. Also, the airplane is technically evidence. You're welcome to take some pictures of that if you'd like, but just be very cautious walking around it because this is a hangar. It can be dangerous. And of course, there's things sticking out of the airplane you can trip over and so forth. So be extremely careful, but you're welcome to get some pictures. My public information officer will be happy to help you in any getting any of those B-roll for you. Thank you all very much for coming, and have a good afternoon.